In the heart of downtown Chicago, a prestigious corporate firm stood tall, its glass windows reflecting the city's fast-paced life. Inside, the office buzzed with employees rushing to meet deadlines, making calls, and typing away on their keyboards. Among them was Marcus Johnson, a hard-working young black man in his early 30s who had been with the company for nearly 5 years. Marcus was quiet, disciplined, and always the first to arrive and the last to leave. He carried himself with professionalism, and though he didn't boast about his accomplishments, his work ethic spoke volumes. But not everyone saw Marcus for his value. His direct supervisor, Richard Cole, a middle-aged white man with a reputation for arrogance, was notorious for belittling employees. Richard had always been dismissive of Marcus, ignoring his contributions during team meetings and often taking credit for his ideas. Though Marcus tried to remain professional, the subtle and not-so-subtle digs weighed heavily on him. The breaking point came one Wednesday morning during a high-stakes meeting with the executive board. The company was facing a major client issue. A multimillion-dollar account was on the verge of collapse. The team gathered in the conference room, tension thick in the air. Marcus had spent several late nights preparing a detailed solution, complete with data analysis, projections, and innovative strategies that could potentially save the client relationship. As Marcus began presenting his plan, Richard interrupted with a mocking smirk. "Marcus, you don't need to waste everyone's time with your theories. Leave the important thinking to people who know what they're doing." The room fell silent. Some employees exchanged uncomfortable glances, but no one dared to speak up. Marcus, holding his composure, tried again. "Sir, if I may, I've compiled." That's when Richard's voice cut sharply through the room. "You're useless, Marcus. Completely useless. Sit down before you embarrass yourself further." The words echoed like a thunderclap. Marcus froze for a moment, his face tightening as humiliation washed over him. His heart pounded. But instead of breaking down, he calmly closed his folder and sat back. What Richard didn't realize was that the CEO of the company, Eleanor Shaw, had just entered the room and caught the exchange. Eleanor, a sharp-eyed woman known for her fairness and zero tolerance for disrespect, paused in the doorway. Her gaze shifted from Marcus to Richard, reading the tension in the room. She had heard enough. "Excuse me," Eleanor said, her voice firm. Everyone immediately straightened in their seats. "Mr. Cole, could you repeat what you just said?" Richard, caught off guard, stammered. "Oh, Ms. Shaw, I was just, encouraging Marcus to let someone else handle this matter." Eleanor's face hardened. "No, that's not what I heard. You called your employee useless, didn't you?" The room was dead silent. No one dared to breathe. Richard forced a nervous laugh. "Well, you know how it is. A little tough love never hurt anyone. Besides, Marcus isn't exactly management material." That was the final straw. Eleanor's tone turned icy. "Mr. Cole, step outside with me. Now." The two exited the conference room, leaving the team whispering nervously. Marcus sat quietly, his hands clenched under the table. He felt anger and shame boiling inside, but also a strange sense of calm, as if the universe had finally witnessed the injustice he had endured for years. Minutes later, the glass doors opened, and Eleanor returned alone. Her expression was firm but calm. "Ladies and gentlemen, from this moment forward, Richard Cole is no longer employed at this company." Gasps rippled across the room. "Richard gone? Just like that?" Eleanor turned to Marcus. "Mr. Johnson, please continue with your presentation." "We're all listening." Marcus took a deep breath. Though still shaken, he gathered his notes and stood up again. This time, no one interrupted him. As he presented his strategy, the board members leaned in attentively. His plan was brilliant, well-researched, innovative, and practical. When he finished, the room erupted in nods of approval and applause. "Outstanding work, Marcus," Eleanor said warmly. "This is exactly the type of leadership we need." She then addressed the room. "Let this be a reminder. In this company, every employee deserves respect. Talent and dedication are what matter, not arrogance, not prejudice, and certainly not bullying." Over the next few weeks, Marcus's proposal not only saved the client relationship, but also brought in additional revenue for the company. The client, impressed with Marcus's professionalism, requested to work directly with him moving forward. Eleanor noticed his potential and soon promoted him to senior project manager, a role he had long deserved but had been denied by Richard's bias. For Marcus, the promotion was more than a career milestone. It was vindication. Years of enduring subtle racism, being overlooked, and having his voice silenced had finally been overturned in one powerful moment of justice. Meanwhile, word spread about Richard's downfall. Former employees came forward with their own stories of his mistreatment. Eleanor's swift action became a model for accountability within the company, and employees felt a renewed sense of trust in leadership. Marcus never gloated or sought revenge. Instead, he carried himself with the same quiet strength he always had. But now his confidence shone brighter, and his colleagues treated him with the respect he had always earned. One afternoon, as he stood by the office window overlooking the city, Marcus reflected on what had happened. For so long, he had questioned whether his efforts mattered, whether people truly saw him. Now he realized that integrity, perseverance, and dignity always prevail, even when it feels like the world is stacked against you. Richard's cruel words had been intended to crush Marcus. Instead, they became the spark that revealed his true worth and brought him the recognition he had always deserved. In the end, the man who called Marcus useless was the one who lost everything: his job, his reputation, and his standing. Marcus, on the other hand, stood tall, living proof that no insult, no prejudice, and no arrogance could erase the power of hard work, talent, and self-respect.